it's Domenica. Welcome back to my channel. Tonight for dinner I'm going to be making a big pot of beef and vegetable soup. So I'm going to show you what I'm using. It's kind of styled after a Mexican type of caldo de res. Instead of using pieces of meat, I will be making meatballs instead. So let me show you everything that I'm going to be using throughout the process. So for the vegetables, I'm going to be using some corn that I've cut up. I also have some zucchini, carrot, and celery, as well as one large onion. Some baby potatoes, I'm using both white and red. You can use any type of potato you like. If you happen to be using a larger potato, just cut it up so that the pieces are relatively the same size. And then I'm going to be adding mushroom because I happen to like it and I think it goes really well with beef. For the meatballs that I'm making, I'm going to be using some ground beef. I have about 1.5 pounds of ground beef. I have a 1/2 cup of white rice that I've already cooked, and I will be adding an egg to that just to hold it all together. I'm going to be adding some chopped cilantro as well. Now, if you are one of those people that carry the gene that when you eat cilantro, it tastes like soap in your mouth, you don't have to put it in. You can substitute Italian flat leaf parsley, regular parsley, or just leave it out. Also, when I'm preparing the meatballs, I'm going to be adding a little bit of plain tomato sauce, as well as a pinch of crushed red pepper and a little bit of oregano. And then to flavor my broth, I'm going to be using some beef bouillon and some bay leaf, as well as just probably cracked black pepper, and I'm probably going to go easy on the salt. So I finished prepping all my vegetables. I chopped all of them roughly. The mushrooms, I kept the stems on, just trimmed the very ends. Otherwise, I cut them in half or in quarters, depending on the size. And now that my vegetables are ready and waiting for me, I'm going to prepare the meatballs. So this way, when it comes time to cook, everything is around the stove and ready to go. So I have everything in here for the meatballs, the rice, the meat. I added the egg. I added about a 1/4 cup of tomato sauce, the cilantro, a little bit of caldo de res and salt, cracked black pepper, chili flake, and I'm just going to mix this all up and form them. Okay, one note about the rice. I did not cook it all the way through. So for me, I used 1/2 cup of rice and then like about 1/2 cup or just over of water. And then I cooked it only 3/4 of the way. I didn't want it to get all mushy, and so that's why I did it this way, since it will continue to cook in the soup, and that's why I did it. So this is pretty good. It's well mixed. Don't squeeze the meat, like just lightly incorporate everything, and then when everything is pretty evenly distributed, you're going to form them into meatball shape. As far as the size, you can do them small. I'm probably going to be doing them a little larger than a golf ball. I finished forming the meatballs. I always make a little one so that during the cooking time, when it's cooked, I do taste it for flavor, even though it's already too late to adjust. But I always make like a little one with whatever leftover meat. They're all about the same size. If you are worried about how to measure, you can use an ice cream scoop or like a tablespoon. Just make sure that it's fairly consistent so that it cooks about the same. And also, since I finished forming them, I'm just going to kind of let them hang out and dry like this. I'm not going to cover it while I work on the base of the soup. Okay, so I have some oil heating up in my pot. My largest pot is 8 quarts. If you have a bigger one, go ahead and use it. This gets pretty full by the end, so I already know like how much vegetables I can prep. Okay, so I'm gonna start with my aromatics, which basically means my onion, carrot, and celery. I have this on medium heat. And I am going to sprinkle just a touch of salt right now, not a lot. The onions I cut into wedges, and I actually left the root a little bit on so that when I cut through it, it can stay in a wedge slice. It's nice when you're serving the soup to have like a piece of onion. And to this, I'm going to add a couple of bay leaves and a little bit of crushed red pepper flakes, just a little bit. If you have picky eaters in the house, you can leave it out. But I do like it a little bit on the spicy side. If you have a chili like a serrano pepper, you can also put that in at this point as well. I would leave it whole. And then after a couple of minutes, when the onion starts to get a little brown on the edge, I am going to add my tomato sauce. I'm using about a half a cup. And I'm using it because of the meatballs. I do like a slight tomato base if the soup has meat in it. And I'm just going to raise my heat back to medium. I did lower it, but I just want the tomato sauce to cook a little bit before adding the water. Okay, so before I add the water, I'm gonna add a couple of tablespoons of the beef seasoning. I'm sorry, a couple of teaspoons. And that'll be the start, and then I normally adjust. Just gonna stir that around. And then I will add my liquid. Okay. And I'm likely going to be adding more liquid as well. I heated up the water in a kettle so it wouldn't be cold. If you have beef broth or beef stock, I would definitely use it, or maybe do half a stock and half water, but it does add a really good flavor. I was hoping to have some beef stock, but unfortunately that did not happen. Now at this point I also tasted the broth, and I don't want to put any more of the bouillon seasoning, but I am going to add a little bit of this. Just maybe like no more than 1/4 of a teaspoon. Again, it has mushroom in here. It enhances like the beef flavor. It's not really heavy though. Even with the beef bouillon seasoning, I was not heavy-handed with it. Okay, so my pot is at full capacity. And how I'm gonna stir is basically just go down with the wooden spoon. Just if there's any like pocket, kind of poke the vegetables down in there somehow. I think I'm gonna leave this uncovered as well. And then, just for right now anyways. And then I'm gonna give it probably another 20 minutes for sure, but I'll check on it periodically. Okay, so it's not quite done yet, but it's looking pretty good. It's a little bit more manageable now that, the vegetables are starting to cook down. And then basically what you're waiting for, you just kind of want the meat to stay in there. It's not going to dry out. It's in a soup. So that your squash is basically tender. And I'm doing this with a bamboo skewer, but you can do it with a knife. All of the other vegetables I know are cooked and good. The corn is good. You want to make sure that your knife can go easily through the potato as well as the mushroom, but mushrooms are they're not that difficult. And then another tip, I actually use the bamboo skewer to put against my pot and the lid, kind of like a vent for the steam to go somewhere. So that basically it looks like that. One more thing that I'm going to prep, I have some green onion and some jalapenos that I just drizzled a little bit of oil on and a little bit of salt. I'm going to put it in the oven for a little bit, and then towards the end I'm going to turn on the broiler. Okay, so this has been about a good hour now, and it looks really good. The broth is really good too. The reason that I like to leave it for, a while is so that the flavor can kind of develop. So if you're looking to make a soup in 30 minutes, you don't want to do this one. You want to do something else. But it's ready and the color is really nice. Everything is finished cooking. And I'm just waiting for the onion and the jalapeno to finish, and then I will serve this. A couple of things that will be useful when you're serving. Some tongs so that you can actually pick up the items from the pot. It makes it a lot easier, using just the ladle, you could burn yourself. So I normally pick out what I want, put it into the bowl, and then use the ladle to ladle the broth over. Okay, so this is how I would serve it. I would plate it in a bowl. I'm using a shallow bowl. Some people use big old serving bowls, and then on the side I just have a couple of tostadas with one of the broiled jalapenos and a little bit of onion on the side. It's a little something to nibble on. This is fantastic if the weather is colder, or if you ask any Latino, they'll tell you it's good anytime. But basically, with the weather kind of getting colder, this is a really great meal to do. So I made something similar a couple of weeks ago, but it was with turkey, not beef. Now, if you want to do that, I would change the flavor profile. So starting with the base, I would not put tomato in it. I would do chicken stock, chicken broth, or chicken bouillon and water. And I actually did not use rice when I made the turkey meatballs. I just kind of left it as is. Of course, I added like other seasonings to it. Maybe I should just do another video with that. Thank you so much for watching. I had some massive technical difficulties this time, so I didn't get to put everything in the video that I wanted to. However, I will have a described recipe below, so be sure to check that out, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Have a good night. See you next time.